Ayana was a bright and kind-hearted girl who lived happily with her father, Kwame, and her mother. But her world changed forever when her mother passed away. Losing her was the hardest thing Ayana had ever faced, but she held on to the love of her father, who always took care of her. After some time, Kwame decided to remarry, hoping to bring happiness back into their home. His new wife, Zanele, came with her daughter, Naledi. At first, Ayana was excited about having a new mother and a sister. She dreamed of a warm and loving family, where they would laugh, share stories, and support each other. She tried her best to welcome them into her life with an open heart, but things didn't go as she had hoped. Slowly, Ayana began to notice that Zanele and Naledi were not as kind as they pretended to be. When her father was around, they acted sweet and caring, but when he was away, their true nature was revealed. Ayana was treated like an outsider in her own home. The warmth and love she had wished for started to fade, and an uneasy feeling crept into her heart. Something was not right, and she was about to face a reality much harsher than she had ever imagined. At first, Ayana tried her best to be a good daughter and sister. She helped around the house and treated Zanele and Naledi with kindness. But soon, she realized that they did not see her as family. Instead, they treated her like a servant. While Naledi spent her days playing, dressing in fine clothes, and enjoying delicious meals, Ayana was given all the household chores. From morning till night, she scrubbed floors, washed clothes, and cooked meals, while Naledi did nothing. Zanele made sure to act like a loving stepmother whenever Kwame was home. She spoke sweetly to Ayana in front of him, pretending to care. She even praised her, making it seem like they were a happy family. But as soon as he left for work, her behavior changed. She ordered Ayana around and scolded her for the smallest mistakes. No matter how hard Ayana worked, it was never enough for Zanele. Kwame was often away on business trips, trusting Zanele to take care of Ayana. He had no idea about the cruelty his daughter faced every day. Ayana wanted to tell him, but Zanele always made sure she never got the chance. She was trapped in a home that was no longer hers, forced to suffer in silence. But deep inside, Ayana refused to give up. She knew she was meant for something greater, and no amount of cruelty could take away her strength. Despite the hardships at home, Ayana remained determined to do well in school. She loved learning and dreamed of a better future. No matter how tired she was from all the housework, she stayed up late at night to study. Her teachers admired her intelligence and hard work, and she always scored the highest in her class. But this only made Zanele and Naledi more cruel toward her. Zanele did everything she could to make Ayana's life difficult. She gave her extra chores, hoping she would be too exhausted to study. Sometimes, she even took away her school books, pretending they were lost. When Ayana had an important test, Zanele would wake her up extra early and make her work until she could barely keep her eyes open. But no matter what, Ayana refused to give up. Naledi, on the other hand, was jealous of Ayana's success. Unlike her, Naledi struggled in school and hated how everyone praised Ayana. To bring her down, Naledi spread false rumors about her. She told lies to classmates, saying Ayana thought she was better than everyone else. Some students believed her and started treating Ayana differently. It hurt, but Ayana tried to ignore the whispers and focus on her goals. The only person who truly understood Ayana was her best friend, Django. He saw the pain she tried to hide and always reminded her to stay strong. "One day, you will rise above all this," he told her. His words gave Ayana hope. She knew that if she kept going, one day she would escape this silent suffering and prove that she was meant for something greater. Ayana's world took a tragic turn when her father, Kwame, suddenly fell ill. He had always been a strong and hard-working man, but now he grew weaker each day. Ayana wanted to be by his side, to take care of him and tell him how much she loved him. But Zanele refused to let her see him. "He needs rest," she would say, blocking Ayana from entering his room. But Ayana knew something wasn't right. She could hear whispers between Zanele and the doctors, but every time she asked questions, she was silenced. Days passed, and Ayana's worry grew. She tried to sneak into his room at night, but Zanele caught her and threatened to punish her. Then, the worst news came. Her father had passed away. Ayana felt like the world had stopped. Tears streamed down her face as she ran to his room, but Zanele stood in her way. "You don't belong here anymore," she said coldly. Ayana begged to see him one last time, but Zanele refused. After Kwame's funeral, Zanele wasted no time taking full control of everything. She claimed ownership of the house and all the money, acting as if Ayana didn't exist. Then, one day, without warning, she packed Ayana's few belongings and threw her out onto the street. "You're nothing but a burden," she sneered before slamming the door. Ayana stood outside, trembling with shock and pain. She had lost everything: her father, her home, and the only family she had left. The betrayal cut deep, and she felt completely alone. But even as she wiped away her tears, a small voice inside her whispered, "This is not the end." She had no idea where to go or what to do next, but one thing was certain: she would not give up. Ayana wandered the streets with nowhere to go. The only home she had ever known was now closed to her. She had no money, no food, and no family to turn to. As night fell, she felt the cold air biting her skin. She hugged herself tightly, trying to fight the fear growing inside her. She had always been strong, but this time she felt completely lost. After walking for hours, she reached the busy marketplace. Vendors were closing their stalls for the night, and the scent of food made her stomach ache with hunger. As she looked around, an old woman selling fruits noticed her. The woman had kind eyes and a warm smile. "Child, you look tired. Do you need a place to rest?" she asked. Ayana hesitated but nodded. The woman led her to a small shop filled with baskets of fruits and vegetables. "You can stay here for now," she said gently. The next morning, Ayana knew she couldn't live on kindness alone. She needed to survive. She offered to help the old woman in exchange for food and shelter. She swept the floors, arranged the fruits, and even helped count the money. But she didn't stop there. She looked for more small jobs in the market. She carried baskets for shoppers, cleaned stalls, and ran errands for vendors. Every coin she earned, she saved for her future. Even with so much work, Ayana never gave up on her studies. Late at night, under the dim light of a street lamp, she read old textbooks she had managed to find. She repeated lessons in her head, determined not to let her dreams slip away. No matter how hard life became, she refused to let her struggles define her. She knew one thing for sure: one day, she would prove to the world that she was more than just a forgotten girl. Years passed, and Ayana's life slowly began to change. She never stopped working hard, no matter how difficult things became. She continued helping at the old woman's shop, taking on small jobs, and studying whenever she had the chance. Her determination paid off when she earned a scholarship to a prestigious university. It was the opportunity she had been waiting for, proof that her struggles had not been in vain. At university, Ayana studied business with great passion. She knew that education was her key to success. While others had wealth and privilege, she had something even stronger: her will to succeed. She spent hours in the library, learned from the best professors, and worked part-time jobs to support herself. Every challenge she faced only made her stronger. After graduating, Ayana used her knowledge and experience to start her own business. She worked tirelessly, making smart decisions and building her company from the ground up. With time, her business grew, and soon, she became one of the most successful young entrepreneurs in the city. The same girl who had once been thrown out onto the streets was now a respected and wealthy woman. Meanwhile, life took a different turn for Zanele and Naledi. Without Kwame's wealth, they struggled to maintain their lavish lifestyle. Zanele's greed had driven away those who once supported her, and soon they had nothing left. Their beautiful house was sold, and their luxurious days were over. Naledi, once spoiled and proud, now faced a harsh reality. Life had turned upside down, but fate was not done with them yet. Life had changed completely for Naledi and Zanele. The wealth and comfort they once enjoyed were gone. Without Kwame's money, they could no longer afford their fancy home, expensive clothes, or luxurious lifestyle. One by one, their so-called friends abandoned them. No one wanted to help Zanele because they knew how she had treated others in the past. She knocked on doors, begged old friends for support, but all she received were cold stares and rejection. The woman who once had everything was now left with nothing. Naledi, who had grown up spoiled and selfish, struggled the most. She had never worked a day in her life, and now she had no choice but to find a job. But without skills or education, no one wanted to hire her. Days turned into weeks, and her desperation grew. She had once laughed at Ayana's struggles, but now she was experiencing them herself. Finally, after countless failed attempts, Naledi saw a job opening at a big company. With no other options, she applied, hoping for a chance to start over. On the day of the interview, she walked into the grand office building, feeling nervous but determined. But the moment she stepped into the CEO's office, her heart sank. Sitting behind the large desk, looking confident and powerful, was Ayana, the same girl she and her mother had mistreated, the girl they had thrown out with nothing. Naledi froze, her face turning pale. She had expected to meet a stranger, but instead, she was face to face with the one person she had wronged the most. The tables had turned, and now Ayana held the power. Naledi stood frozen in the doorway, unable to believe her eyes. Ayana, the girl she had once mocked, the girl her mother had thrown onto the streets, was now the CEO of a successful company. The shock and humiliation hit her all at once. She had come here begging for a job, only to find that the person she had treated so cruelly was now in charge. Ayana looked at Naledi, her expression calm but unreadable. She could see the fear in Naledi's eyes, the silent plea for mercy. For a brief moment, Ayana remembered all the pain she had endured, the sleepless nights, the hunger, the loneliness. She had every reason to take revenge, to humiliate Naledi just as she had once been humiliated. But instead, she took a deep breath and did something unexpected. "You need a job?" Ayana asked, her voice steady. Naledi swallowed hard and nodded, unable to speak. Ayana studied her for a moment before continuing. "I will help you, but only if you are willing to change." Her words were firm, yet they carried no hatred. Naledi felt a wave of shame wash over her. She had expected anger, cruelty, or rejection, but instead, Ayana was offering kindness. It was more painful than any punishment. Tears welled up in her eyes as she lowered her head. "I'm sorry," she whispered, her voice barely audible. When Zanele heard about what had happened, she too felt the weight of her past mistakes. She had spent her life chasing wealth, using people, and mistreating those who cared for her. And now, when she had lost everything, the only person who had the power to help her was the very one she had betrayed. She realized, too late, that she had been wrong all along. Ayana's actions sent a powerful message. True strength was not in revenge, but in rising above the past. And at that moment, both Zanele and Naledi understood the meaning of regret. Ayana looked at Naledi, who stood before her with her head lowered, ashamed and desperate. Zanele, once proud and full of arrogance, was nowhere to be seen. Now, she was just a woman who had lost everything because of her own greed. Ayana had the power to punish them, to make them feel the same pain she had once felt, but instead, she chose a different path. "Life always gives back what you put into it," Ayana said calmly. "You treated me with cruelty, and now you are facing the consequences. But I won't do the same to you." Her voice was firm, yet filled with wisdom. She knew that revenge would not change the past. Naledi wiped her tears and looked up, confused. "You're not going to turn me away?" she asked softly. Ayana shook her head. "I will give you a job," she said, "but only if you are ready to change your ways. If you work hard and treat others with respect, I will give you a chance to rebuild your life. But if you stay the same person you were before, then you will have to find your own way." Naledi nodded quickly. She knew this was the only opportunity she had left, and she didn't want to waste it. "I will change," she promised, her voice full of sincerity. As for Zanele, she was left to face the harsh truth. Her greed and selfishness had ruined her life. No one trusted her. No one wanted to help her. She had spent years mistreating others, and now, when she needed kindness, she found herself alone. Ayana did not offer her the same mercy she gave Naledi. Zanele had to live with the consequences of her choices, and for the first time, she realized that wealth and power meant nothing if they were built on cruelty. Ayana had proven that true success was not about wealth or revenge. It was about rising above the past with kindness and strength. And in that moment, she knew she had truly won. Ayana had finally reached the place she had always dreamed of, a life where she was strong, successful, and free from the pain of her past. She had worked hard, fought through every struggle, and now stood as a powerful woman, not because of revenge, but because of resilience. She had proven that true success was not about bringing others down, but about lifting yourself up despite all obstacles. Naledi, once spoiled and arrogant, had learned the hardest lesson of her life. Losing everything had humbled her, and working under Ayana changed her even more. She no longer looked down on others, nor did she expect special treatment. Instead, she worked hard, listened, and treated people with respect. For the first time, She understood how much pain she had caused Ayana in the past. She deeply regretted it, but more than that, she finally admired the person Ayana had become. As for Ayana, she found peace in knowing that she had not let hatred control her. She had built a life of happiness, not by seeking revenge, but by proving to herself and the world that she was more than what others had tried to make her. She surrounded herself with people who truly cared for her, including her best friend, Django, who had always believed in her. Looking back, Ayana realized that every hardship had shaped her into the person she was today. She had lost everything once, but she had rebuilt her life with strength and determination. And in the end, she had won, not by destroying those who hurt her, but by becoming the best version of herself. Her story was proof that resilience and kindness always win in the end.